Isaac had never been one to ignore someone in trouble. That morning, as he returned home from work after his night shift, the first rays of sunlight peeked through the morning mist. The road was still lightly traveled. The fresh air carried the damp scent of grass and asphalt heated by dawn. As he drove slowly on a slightly hilly section, he saw a car stopped on the shoulder. A sleek grey sedan, hood down, a flat tire. Nearby, a woman struggled with a jack, her movements betraying her inexperience and growing annoyance. Her brown hair, tied in a tight ponytail, escaped in a few rebellious strands along her slightly tense face. She wore a navy blue suit that, although perfectly fitted to her figure, was clearly not made for this kind of effort. Isaac slowed down before coming to a complete stop on the shoulder, a few meters behind the sedan. He didn't hesitate for a second before getting out of his pickup and walking towards her with a confident step. "Need help?" he said in a calm voice. The woman jumped slightly and turned around. His gaze oscillated between relief and obvious caution. She quickly looked at Isaac, his sturdy build, his simple but clean clothes, worn jeans and a dark t-shirt slightly stained with grease. For a moment, he thought he saw hesitation in her eyes, but distress outweighed distrust. "Oh, yes. I tried, but I can't do it. This jack won't hold, and I don't even know if I placed it correctly." Isaac took a look at the device and immediately saw the error. She had not positioned the jack in the correct place under the chassis, which made the operation not only ineffective but also dangerous. "Do you allow that?" he asked, kneeling down. She nodded, leaning back slightly. Isaac rolled up his sleeves and got to work. His hands were used to physical exertion. In less than 15 minutes, the spare tire was in place and the sedan was roadworthy again. All the while, the woman watched him, first with suppressed nervousness, then with a mixture of admiration and curiosity. When he was finished, he stood up and absently wiped his hands on a rag he always kept in his glove compartment. "There you go, it's done. Be careful. The spare tire is temporary. Avoid long distances before replacing it." She blinked, as if she had only just realized that he had solved her problem in record time. "Really, thank you. I don't know what I would have done without you."
"Do you accept the reward?"
Isaac shook his head with a slight smile. "No need. Helping is free." The woman stared at him for a moment, then, almost hesitantly, she took a small notebook out of her purse and scribbled something in it.
"My name is Claire, in case. You never know."
She handed him the piece of paper where his first name and an address were written. Isaac hesitated for a moment before taking it, then absently slipped it into the pocket of his jeans. "Nice to meet you, Claire."
"Be careful on the road."
He gave her a curt nod before returning to his pickup. He didn't really think about this incident anymore once he got home, too tired after his night shift. But 3 days later, something strange happened. Early in the evening, while Isaac was slumped on his couch, a beer in hand, he saw a black vehicle stop in front of his house. An SUV with tinted windows. Its engine was still running, but no one got out. A shiver of worry ran down his spine. Who could possibly be there? He waited a few minutes, hoping the car would leave. But nothing moved. Finally, driven by curiosity mixed with slight apprehension, he placed his bottle on the coffee table and stood up. He slowly opened the front door and stepped onto the porch. The SUV door opened in a smooth, measured motion.
A man in a black suit got out.
He was tall, well-built, and wore sunglasses despite the fading light. There was something intimidating, almost military about his appearance. He took a few steps closer, stopping just at the edge of Isaac's personal space.
"Mr. Isaac?"
he asked in a neutral voice. Isaac stiffened. "Yes, it's me. Who are you?" The man did not respond immediately. He made a vague gesture towards the car, an invitation to get in, as if it were a harmless step. Isaac carefully observed every detail, a bad feeling starting to creep into his mind. He felt the tension crystallize in his muscles, a silent alert that told him to be careful. A shiver ran down his spine, but he forced himself to remain calm. The car door was still open, and the man stood there impassively, waiting. Isaac stared at the SUV, trying to analyze the situation, wondering if he had just made a big mistake approaching this vehicle, but he didn't have time to think further. The rear door of the SUV opened slowly, and then Claire appeared. Claire, the same woman he had helped a few days earlier. But what he saw today was not the one he had encountered on the side of the road, drenched in sweat and in frustration. Claire was transformed, dressed in a black evening dress, simple but incredibly elegant. Her hair was styled in a sophisticated manner, each strand perfectly controlled. She moved with graceful steps, but it was obvious that she did not come from an ordinary world, nor the one Isaac knew. His appearance betrayed a social status far beyond what he could have imagined. A furtive glance at her shoes, her subtle but expensive jewelry, and even the attitude of her steps confirmed one thing. Claire belonged to a universe where money and influence reigned supreme. Isaac felt suddenly displaced, for a moment with a shudder, like a man in the street who enters a castle by mistake. She approached him, a grateful smile on her lips, but also a note of seriousness in her eyes. "Isaac, I'm sorry to show up like this, but I absolutely had to see you." He looked at her for a moment, trying to understand why. Why now? Why after all this time? But a slight apprehension took hold of him. He crossed his arms, a protective posture. "For what?" he repeated, wariness slowly settling into his voice. Claire seemed to hesitate, her eyes shifting away briefly before settling on him. She took a deep breath, as if preparing to reveal a secret she had kept for a long time. "Because I didn't tell you everything the other day." She paused, watching Isaac's every reaction, her eyes trying to read him. Then, under her breath, she continued.
I am the daughter of Antoine de la Roche.
Isaac felt like an electric shock running through his body.
Antoine de la Roche.
This name.
This name rang through the media like a steel bell.
An industrial tycoon, owner of some of the world's largest companies, recognized not only for his immense wealth but also for his political connections, alliances and ability to manipulate situations to his advantage. A man whose influence extended far beyond the borders of this country. Isaac had never come across the name, but he had heard of him. Who wouldn't have done it? "Okay, and what does that have to do with me?" he asked, his voice hoarser than he intended. Claire seemed to search for words before responding, her eyes slipping furtively towards the bodyguard, as if seeking support. The man in the black suit didn't move, but his imposing presence seemed to say it all. "I think someone is trying to kill me." Isaac blinked, freezing in place. Everything had accelerated so suddenly that he hadn't had time to process everything. He had helped her a few days earlier, that was all. He hadn't seen any signs.
No threats, no clues.
"Pardon," he repeated, hoping he had heard wrong. "This flat tire. It didn't flatten on its own."
Someone sabotaged it.
"And if you hadn't been there that day, it's likely I would have died in an accident." Isaac felt his heart speed up. The magnitude of what she had just said hit him like a slap in the face. Sabotage. She was a target, and he found himself right in the middle of it.
Someone, somewhere wanted him dead.
And he had been the fortuitous element that had saved her. But at what cost? His thoughts collided. "And now?" he asked, although the dawning fear in his voice betrayed his own doubts. Claire hesitated, her gaze once again crossing that of the bodyguard. She took a breath, as if the weight of the words to come would be too much to bear. "I want to know if you would agree to help me." Again. Isaac stared at her in silence, processing her words. He was a simple man, an ordinary worker, someone who was content to help a stranger. Why involve him in something so dangerous? Why him, and not someone else? But something in Claire's eyes, a glimmer of fear mixed with fierce determination, made Isaac realize that this was not just a whim. This matter was much bigger than anything he could have imagined. She wasn't just a woman in danger. She was a piece in a larger chessboard, and her role in this story was much more complex than he had first believed. If he refused, he knew he might regret not having done anything. After a moment of heavy silence, Isaac lowered his arms, a sigh escaping his lips.
Tell me what is Soldo.
Claire seemed relieved, a slight smile touching her lips. She had found in Isaac someone willing to help her, someone who, despite his initial mistrust, would find himself immersed in a case that would change his life forever.